Hi there! Welcome to this very first video of the 123 Quilt Along. My name is Irene and together with Bernina I am hosting a Quilt Along for you where we are going to focus on learning to quilt our own quilts. I'm so super happy that you're here, that you want to join in and quilt along with me and learn more about ruler work and free motion quilting. In today's video we are going to make our first quilt blocks. Be able to learn to quilt our quilts, we of course need a quilt top, so we're going to start with that today. If you are new here and have not heard about the 123 Quilt Along before, welcome to you and feel free to join along. On my website sugaridoo.com/123 you can learn more about the quilt along, what it is, what we're going to do, and you can sign up there for the project for free. All the patterns will be published on the Bernina blog, and all the video tutorials that I will be making are here on my YouTube channel. So there are always two parts of each part of the quilt along. So today we have our pattern on the Bernina blog and this YouTube video where I'm going to show you the technique, foundation paper piecing on freezer paper that we will be using to make our quilt blocks. So if you need any of the links, please go to the description of this video down below, and there you will find all the links to the patterns, and the blog posts on the Bernina website will be available in English, German and Dutch, so 3 languages for you to choose from, and all these videos and my emails are available in English only. Also a part of the quilt along is the Facebook group. If you want, you can buy a ticket for 10 euros to join the Facebook group. I will also put a link for that somewhere in this screen. It's not necessary for to be able to join the quilt along to sign up for the Facebook group, but I will be hosting Q&A sessions in there, and you can show your progress and ask your questions to other participants in the quilt along. So it's a really lovely community of hundreds of quilters from all over the world. So if you want to join, go get your ticket on the Sugaridoo webshop. And the final thing that is available on my webshop are the kits for this quilt along. So you can sew along with your own fabrics. All the requirements are listed in the Bernina blog, on the Bernina blog. And so you can sew along with your own fabrics or get your fabrics from the fabric kits that I have available. There are 4 options. You have the green kit, you have the pink and orange one, and there are 2 types of rainbow quilts. So yeah, hop over to the webshop if you're interested in that, and then just let's get started. What exactly is it that we are going to start with today? Well, we are going to make our first 4 blocks, and that is this little tree buddy called Flynn. So we're going to make Flynn and his friends, and every 2 weeks from now we are going to make 4 blocks. So today the pattern for Flynn is released on the Bernina blog and in this video, and then in 2 weeks I will share another pattern for the next 4 trees, and so we will make 16 trees in total. After that we're going to assemble the quilt top and then start quilting it, but in this first half of the quilt along we're just going to make 3 blocks. In this video I'm going to show you what materials I will be using and how you can make the tree block with foundation paper piecing on freezer paper. Are you ready? Let's get started. So here are the materials that I will be using today. So I printed out the pattern from the Bernina blog, and here I have paper scissors, fabric scissors, a rotary cutter, some different types of rulers. So I have a ruler to square up my sections and my quilt block. Then I'll just have a ruler and a pencil to trace my pattern. And here are 2 1/4 rulers. Those are rulers with a little notch on there, like you can see here. And that is a 1/4 inch notch, which is really handy for cutting off that seam allowance while doing freezer paper, foundation paper piecing. And then fabric, of course. I'm going to make my tree in the lightest green from the green and teal and the green and teal fabric kit, and fabric for the background for the tree trunks, freezer paper, an ironing board, and tea, of course. So that is what I'm going to use today. And of course, my Bernina sewing machine. I am working on the Bernina B770 Quilts edition. Let's prepare our pattern, and for this, tape is also handy to have at hand. So we're going to make flint today, and the first thing you want to do after you print it is measure this little square over here. And this will tell you if you've printed your pattern correctly. So this measures 1 square for 1 inch for me, so that's good. Then you can see that this is section C. Section C is in 2 parts, and then we also have section A and section B over here. So let's start by assembling section C. That is that. Then you're going to use a ruler and a pen to trace this pattern to freezer paper. Here I have a sheet of freezer paper. There is a glossy side and a more paper-like side, and you're going to draw on the paper side so the glossy side is down. There we go, and after you've traced the pattern, you're going to place the numbers in there as well. So after you've traced your patterns, you're going to fold the pattern pieces. So we have 3 sections of the pattern, and you're going to fold each section over all the lines. Folding all these lines will really help during sewing. And if you need to fold a line like this, you're just going to fold over the whole length of the paper. It's only a very small line, of course, over here, but you're just going to fold the whole paper in the direction of that line. There we go, all the pattern pieces are done. You can now use the printed pattern as a template to cut your fabrics. There we go, that is 3 sets of fabric templates for our first tree. So grab your fabrics and we can start cutting. Ooh, almost forgot to tell you, before you start cutting, we're now using little snippets for the background of the trees, but to assemble the quilt top you will also need strips from your background fabric, and it's best to just cut those strips first so you have them lying around and you know you have enough of those long strips from your background fabric to assemble the quilt top. So on the Bernina blog you can read how much of those strips you need and how big of a part of your background fabric you need to set apart for that. So yeah, just hop over to the Bernina blog to know what you need to set apart for your background fabric, and then you can start using the rest of the background fabric for your trees. I'm going to make the tree in the lightest green, and I like to start with cutting out the biggest piece. And here we have section C, and that has the biggest piece for the tree, and these little triangles are going to be in the background color. So I'm just going to take my piece of fabric and place this on there. You can use either fabric scissors or a rotary cutter and just cut out your fabrics. So if you're using solids, it doesn't matter on what side of the fabric you place your pattern piece. But if you're using a print fabric, you need to make sure at this stage that you place your pattern piece on the wrong side of the fabric. So let's say this was the fabric you would be using for your tree. Then this is the right side of the fabric. Then the back. This is the wrong side of the fabric. And you will take a pattern piece with the number. So this is the back of the pattern piece. And this is the top. And the top is facing up. So the fabric is wrong side facing up. And this pattern piece is right side facing up. And then you can go and cut. So that is how you should cut print fabric, and with your solids it doesn't matter. If this technique is new for you, then please make sure to cut big pieces. So cut around with at least a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but if this is for you the first time to try this, make sure to cut it a little bit bigger, because it's so much easier to place your fabrics when you have enough space around the pattern piece. And there I have all my pattern pieces cut out. So now all the fabric pieces are cut. I like to show you how you can sew a section. And we're going to start with section A. So I have organized my fabric snippets over here. So I will just pile up all the fabrics for section A over here. Oh wait. I'm going to pile up all the fabrics for section B over here, because we're going to start with section A. There we go. And when these are your fabrics, you can pile them up in reverse order. So this is piece 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and piece 1. And then these paper templates, you can just save them and use them to cut out your next tree, since we're going to make 4 identical trees. And also these fabric pieces, pattern pieces, you can also reuse those. So we're going to start out with section A. So I'm just going to slide my ironing board in view, and let's plug in this iron. Yeah, so I have my sewing machine on that side, and here I have my cutting mat. And now it's time to get your rotary cutter and your add a quarter ruler or rulers. These two do the same thing, but this is just longer, so it's easier for longer seams, where this one is sometimes just too short. You can either then shift this while cutting or use a longer one, but they do the same job. Do we have everything? Yes, so let's start. First step is to iron piece A1 to the paper, and piece A1 is my green piece over here, and we need to iron that to the back, so to the glossy side of the paper. And we're going to place this here, and then you need to make sure that it is behind piece A1 on your paper. And when you're in your sewing room, it's easy enough to put it up against the light, then you can already see through the freeze of paper. But I'm just going to take a light tablet to show you what I'm doing. Here we go. This is my bright pad, so it's just a very bright thing, and it makes it really easy to see through the paper, especially when I'm demonstrating something on camera. I'm not always using this when I'm sewing, because then I will just hold it up against the light. But as you can see, this is the idea. So the piece A1 on your pattern should be inside your fabric piece. And then let's not iron on my bride pad, and then you will just give this a press, and this will stick the fabric to the freezer paper. See? And then it's time to place piece A2 in the right position. So what we do is we fold back the pattern over the line between A1 and A2. We've already folded this, so this makes it easier. And now we can see A2 over here. Here you can see the reversed A2. And what we need to do is place our fabric piece behind the folded back A2. There we go. So when you have it lying open over here, this is where A2 is supposed to end. But since this seam is on an angle and it's just very hard to place this piece behind it. But yeah, this is a little trick for that. So fold over your pattern and then make sure that the second piece is behind A2. And then what we're going to do is sew over here. So we're going to sew along the folded edge of the paper. Now we have sewn along the paper, you can go ahead and trim this first seam to 1/4 inch, and then it's time to fold back the pattern and fold back the fabric piece. And then it's tempting to iron on this side, but then you will touch the glossy paper, so that will stick to your iron. So place it upside down and then give it a press. With this technique you will do a press after every piece that you add to your block. So there we have 2 pieces, and let's see how we did. If piece 2 is nicely behind piece 2, yes, that looks good. So yeah, there we have piece 1 and piece 2. Now it's time to add piece 3. And after you've seen how we will add piece 3, you will know it all. It's just the same steps that we will repeat. So you will fold back the paper on the line between A2 and A3. And then that's where your add a quarter ruler comes in. So you will trim off this seam. This will give you a guide of where you're going to place your new fabric piece. Piece A3 is over here, and when we fold it back, piece A3 is over here. And I will just pick the next fabric from the top of my stack, and this needs to go behind here. So now we have 2 guides. So we have the 1/4 inch seam over here, and that needs to go along the edge of the fabric. And we have the outlines of piece A3, and that needs to be somewhere in the fabric piece, so not too much, not too close to the edge. Something like this looks good. And then we can sew along the edge of the paper. So I will sew and come back to you. So that's the next seam sewn, and when I pull back the paper a little bit, you'll see that that seam is nicely following the paper, but it's not going through the paper. And then it's time to open up the paper and open up the fabric. Give it a little finger press, and then give it all a good press. There we have 3 pieces attached. So like I said, now you know it all, but of course I will repeat the steps again for you. So the steps are: pick up the next fabric piece, that is in this case A4. Let me see where A4 is. Here it is, this little snippet. Then you will fold back the paper. Then we're going to cut a 1/4 inch seam. Then the next step is to place your fabric behind the folded back piece. So here we have the piece of fabric, and the folded back A4 is over here. So it should be behind here. Yes, and then you can sew. So those are the steps. Fold back the pattern piece, cut your 1/4 inch seam, place your new snippet of fabric, and then sew. So there it is, tiny snippet added. Just pressing this open a little bit. And now I can also press from this side. I just need to make sure that the iron is not touching the glossy part of the paper. So pressing from this side is always the easiest. Sometimes it's just nice to press it open from this side. There we go, already 4 pieces attached to our section. Does it look like a tree already? Not really, huh? But this is just the process, and you can continue adding piece after piece until the whole section is done. That's starting to look a little bit like a tree. So here we have the tree trunk, little branch, and one of the corners of the tree. So that's what the pattern looks like. And that is what the section looks like. So now we need to do one more step before we can peel off the freezer paper. So we're going to take our inch ruler and place it on the outer edge of the pattern, and then cut it off at a 1/4 inch. So we're just adding a 1/4 inch to this side and to this side, to all the sides of course, but you're adding a 1/4 inch from the line of the pattern. There we go. Just go all around. Until everywhere is a 1/4 inch seam. There we go, that's the first section done, and now you can peel away carefully the freezer paper. There we go. Ta-da! So the first section. Now let's go ahead and make section B and section C as well. Ooh, one little tip in between. I tend to go quite fast when I'm doing this, and I have a pile of fabric already cut. So when you've just pressed and then you move directly to your cutting mat, it could be too hot. So I have had hobbles and bubbles in my cutting mat due to the heat of the fabric and paper. So just let it cool off for a few seconds before you place it on your mat. There we go, open it up, and that is all the pieces sewn for this section. Goes really quick if you have all the pieces already cut. So now the next step is to trim off all the edges to a 1/4 inch. There it is, the second section. So sections A and B kind of do look like a tree, don't you think? So now just peel away the freezer paper, and then section B is also done. There we go. So here is section C. I've already sewn this section, It was quite a simple one, so it only has one big piece of green and then 2 snippets over here and 2 over here. Only need to give this a trim. There it is, our final section. Now we have our 3 sections. Section 1, well, this is section C, section A and B. There we go. And now we only need to put those together with 3 sections, 2 seams, and then it's done. So first of all, we're going to sew this together. Just place them right sides together, and you can pin it to keep it nicely in place. And because the seam is a little bit under an angle, you don't want to line up the corners exactly in the corner, but just a few threads to the left, I would say, so that you have here tiny piece of dark gray. Perfect camera work. Tiny piece of dark gray peeking out over here. And on the back of this side you have a tiny piece of green peeking out over here. There we go, all pinned, and then just go ahead and sew along this line with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So going to give this a press, just going to press it inwards. Well, inwards. I'm not going to really fold open the seam, as I also didn't do that here because of the foundation paper piecing. Give it a nice press, and there is the bottom part of our tree together. Now we can add section C, and this can just be placed straight on top because we now have 2 rectangles. So this is a rectangle and this is a rectangle, so you can line up the sides over here and over here. And there it is, ta-da! Our very first tree block, very first tree Flynn is pieced together. I think it's a really happy, pretty tree. So go ahead and sew 3 more of these. So we're making 4 Flynn blocks, and then every 2 weeks we're making 4 more trees. So at the end of these 8 weeks you will have 16 trees. Yeah, so 8 weeks, 4 times 2 weeks. Yes, at the end of these 8 weeks you'll have 16 trees to make your quilt top together. So that was it for this video. The instructions to piece together your first tree with foundation paper piecing on freezer paper. If you want to read all the instructions, just go to the Bernina blogs. All the links are listed in the comment section. Well, not the comment section, the description of this video down below. And if you're in the Facebook group, show your trees in there. If you're not in the Facebook group, you can go over to Instagram and post them. I would love to see them, and I would love to see how your trees are turning out. And yeah, so I'm super excited that we kicked off the 1, 2, 3 quilt along. Can't wait to see all those trees together. Thank you so much for joining in, and I will see you again in a quilt along video when we're assembling all the blocks together. So this is the only video that we will have for piecing our trees, since all the trees will use the same technique. You will see me on the Bernina blog every 2 weeks, and after that I will be back on YouTube to assemble our quilt tops. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you soon. Bye!